Are you getting the whole truth from your home builder? In this video, we are pulling back the curtain and revealing the secrets of the new construction industry. What you don't know could cost you big time. Stick around because what I'm about to reveal could make or break your new home purchase. Hello friends, and welcome to my channel where we talk about all things new construction here in Northeast DFW. I'm a realtor with almost a decade of experience selling new construction homes, and now I'm on the realtor side bringing that expertise to you. So today we are going to be talking over all of the secrets that your new home salesperson is not going to tell you unless you ask. Let's jump right in to number one, which is amenity over promising. Now, this is not something that is the fault of the builder rep. The developer will tell the builders, hey, here's the amenities that are going to go into this community. So it might be a dog park or a playground or a pickleball court, and if those amenities are not already built by the time you are purchasing, let's say you're coming in early in the community, there's not really a guarantee or promise that those are the amenities that are actually going to get built. It is their intention to build those amenities, but things change. You're not always going to get the amenities that were promised at the beginning of the community. And the builder contracts are pretty clear about that they can't be held responsible for those changes. They're selling you a specific home on a specific lot, and that's about where their responsibility ends in terms of what's going to be coming in the area around your new home. On that note, point number two is going to be area development. So let's say you purchase a lot that has a bunch of trees in the back. It's not on your property, but it backs up to a rich, lush green tree line. Everybody loves having those trees in the back, right? But if the developer does not own that land and they haven't designated it as a green belt, green space, creek, what have you, and that land belongs to a farmer who wants to sell his land, make some money, sell it to a commercial developer, those trees could be torn down the next year and up comes a Dollar General. You never know. So never purchase a home based on the idea that the land around it is going to be any specific way forever. Secret number three is unlisted inventory. This is kind of like the secret menu at Starbucks, right? It's not something that's advertised. You're not going to find it on the website. You may not even find it on the inventory sheets that they have in the model of all of their quick move-in homes. But at any given time, there's probably a variety of inventory homes that have either started but are not that far along yet, or maybe everything's already been picked out and they've already started permitting and they know what home is going to be built on what lots, but they have not released that information to the public yet. This is something that you're not going to find out about unless you have a reason to ask about it. Let's say there's a specific floor plan that you really like and you don't want to wait to build it. You can always ask, like, hey, are you building any of these that aren't quite ready yet, but are going to be ready sooner than building from scratch? And the salesperson will have access to that information. They'll be able to tell you all of the homes that are being built of that specific floor plan. So of course, they're always going to want to push the ones that are closer to completion. Builders don't like to have inventory just hanging around. They want to sell those homes that are pretty much completed, but that doesn't mean that that's all that is available. By the way, if you are finding value in this video, then please do me a favor and leave it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel reach other people like you who are hoping to buy their new home here in DFW. And don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss future videos like this one. We have a lot of videos where we talk about stuff like this, just the general how-tos, increase your knowledge about how new construction works and that whole buying process. And then we also have some fun model and community tours. So we'd love to have you. The next point is about advertised incentives. So you may see on social media, hey, Builder X is now offering 4.5% interest, permanent rate buy down. You're like, wow, that's awesome. I want to get 4.5% interest, right? So you show up and it turns out that that incentive is only applicable to specific homes. Maybe it's like what we talked about, those quick move-in homes that are already ready to go and they want to get rid of them. So they're going to offer higher incentives on those homes that they want off of their docket, right? And let's say you come in and it applies to a wide variety of quick move-in homes. Well, that doesn't mean you're completely off the hook. There might be specific financing terms and conditions that are applied to get that rate. You might have to have a specific credit score. You might have to be doing a specific loan program or be putting down a specific down payment. For instance, I saw a lot of promised interest rates for home buyers doing an FHA loan with 10% down. So the dollars are always there, right? If it costs the builder, let's say $15,000 to offer a specific rate, and let's say you're not doing an FHA 10% down, but you still want to be able to take advantage of that incentive, you can do that. The lender will help walk you through how to best apply that $15,000 in order to still see some of those savings. It's just not going to be necessarily as good of a deal as the one that's advertised. On that note too, you might see something like homes up to $60,000 off. That doesn't mean that any community that you go to for that builder is going to have $60,000 off every single one of their homes. It's usually going to be homes that have been sitting for a little while and maybe a higher price point where they have that money to work with, they have the margins there in order to be able to offer a really deep discount. That doesn't mean that you still can't get a good deal. It just means that take those advertised incentives with a grain of salt and realize that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get that exact incentive. All right, this next point that builders will not tell you unless you specifically ask is a little bit harder to define with a tagline, and that is where the lot is in the community in relation to the other builders in the community. This isn't something that's usually a make it or break it, but it might be for you, and you don't know unless you ask. And that is that often builders will be mixed up within a phase, a section of the community, right? Where you might have builder A building right next to builder B, and behind them is builder C, and it's all jumbled in. Sometimes you get a community where it's all one builder in one section, but that's often not the case. So if there's a builder that you are just not a big fan of, you don't like the way their front elevations look, it feels cheap to you, it's a different price point than the one that you're looking at, and you don't want to have that builder's home right across the street from you or right next door to you, then it's just something to ask about, look at, think about if you're somebody who's particular about that kind of thing. Some people don't care, but just make sure that when you're looking at the map, you know what the homes around you are going to be. This next point is one that, I talk about all the time. Of course, I'm biased because I am a realtor, but I also used to be a builder rep. So I understand both sides of this. And that is that the builder rep is there to do just that, represent the home builder. And while there are a ton of new home sales counselors out there that really, really do care about their buyers, and they do want what's best for them, and they are going to be honest and transparent and want to help them. That is often the case, but it's not a given. And at the end of the day, they're not there to represent your best interests. They also want to make their boss happy. They want to look good for their boss, right? Like, hey, I didn't give away all of the incentive that I had in my back pocket for these people. I made the company money, right? Or they want to increase their standing within the company so they get assigned the best communities, or sell a bunch of homes so that they can get nominated for awards. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. I personally was one of those people. Like, I very much cared about my buyers, and my surveys proved it. People were very happy with the care that I took of them. But at the end of the day, my main responsibility was to the builder. So if I had a home, let's say, that backed up on a busy road, I wasn't going to point that out. we would go look at it. They would be able to see it was on a busy road. I wouldn't say, now think, like, is this something that you care about that's important to you? Like, do you want to have the peace and quiet? Or maybe you like having nobody behind you. Maybe you prefer that. But I wasn't always bringing up objections that my buyers weren't seeing themselves, because it doesn't matter to everybody, and I got to sell that home to somebody, right? So builder reps are not going to point out the red flags necessarily that a realtor might, who's there looking out for you. As a realtor representing my buyers, it doesn't matter how many homes we look at. Eventually, at the end of the day, I'm going to find that home that works for them. As a builder rep, I'm trying to find the buyer for this one specific home that's been difficult to sell. The next point is to take a look at the HOA CC&Rs. That is the covenants, conditions, and restrictions in an HOA. Most new construction homes are going to have an HOA. It's really difficult to find communities that do not have them. They have their pluses and minuses. One of the pluses being that they help maintain property values by upholding a certain standard. So they're going to make sure that people mow their yards and don't have overgrown flower beds and don't paint their front door hot pink. They're there to make sure that all of the homes have a uniformity and are well maintained and well cared for, so that the community is nice to enjoy for everybody. They also help maintain all of the common areas and the amenities. But if you have a specific purpose in mind, something that you are looking to do in your new home, maybe it's putting a flagpole in the front yard. Maybe you want to put a shed in the back or put a pool in. Maybe you want to be able to park your boat in the driveway, or if it's a corner lot, maybe you want to add a gate and be able to pull the boat and keep it in the backyard or something like that. Maybe it's even that you want to run a business out of your home. Well, it's important to take a look at the CC&Rs and make sure that the HOA doesn't have any restrictions on the things that you're wanting to accomplish in your new home. Maybe you just want to live there and you don't want to do anything special and it's not a big deal for you. But if there are specific things like that can affect your neighbors that you're wanting to do, just take a look at that first, because it's not really the salesperson's job to memorize the CC&Rs and make sure that they're telling everybody who's coming in, like, oh, I need to find out everything that you're wanting to do with this home in the future so I can tell you if it's going to be allowed by the HOA or not. There might be certain things like putting a shed in the back that they just have memorized and they know the CC&Rs on that specific community, but really you want to be doing that due diligence yourself if it's something that's important to you. Next up is that the builder's contract is written to benefit the builder. All the builder contracts are like this. Most of them are all pretty similar. Each one is going to be written by that builder's team of lawyers. They're not the same as the promulgated TREC real estate forms that we get in resale. So while they may be skewed to favor the builder, it's important to take a look and just see what happens if you walk away from your earnest deposit, for instance, or maybe if you decide that you want to extend closing for whatever reason. You need an extra week or two because of personal circumstance. So how much is it going to cost per day to extend that closing? Because most builders are going to have a per day fee for pushing closing out from the date that they say, hey, this home is ready for you to close and move in on this day. You also want to check for things like, is there an escalation clause? We're not seeing this as much anymore. This was more of a thing that we saw during the Rona period that shall not be named, but it was really difficult at that time to estimate before starting construction how much it was going to cost in materials to build a home. So what they did was implement an escalation clause where at a certain point in construction, they were going to take a look at what they estimated the home would cost to build versus how much it actually cost to build. And if it went up a certain percentage, or even if it went up at all, they would come back to you, the buyer, and say, hey, the cost of your home went up another $20,000, $30,000. Are you willing to raise the final purchase price of your home by the amount that it cost us extra to build it? Usually, if you said, no, I'm not willing to do that, then hopefully they would just give you your earnest money back and all you would have lost is time. There were some builders during that period that didn't have an escalation clause, clause and they still just went to the buyer and didn't honor their contract and said, hey, we're going to charge you $40,000 more now, or else we're just going to cancel you and sell it to someone else. And unfortunately, that happened to a lot of people. Some builders made the news for tactics like that. So like I said, it's not as much of an issue anymore, but it's still good to check and see, is the price that you go under contract for locked in, or can that go up later? And I'm not talking about will it go up because you go to the design center and you add on your design selections. I'm talking about, hey, the builder has just said, now we want to charge more money for this home. Because I will say that pretty much all builder contracts are going to have a stipulation in there that the builder can cancel at any time for any reason. At companies that I've worked at, usually the only reason that they would consider canceling a buyer under contract would be in the case of a belligerent or abusive buyer. It's the sad reality that sometimes that happens. People get threatening, they get violent, they yell, they cuss, they call names, and in that scenario, the builder has to ask the question, is this somebody that we really want to do business with? So I stand by the builder's right to say, no, we're not going to do business with this person. What I have a problem with is when builders do like what we just talked about, where they just get greedy and they realize they can make more money if they were to cancel the buyer that's already under contract, has their dream home that they're building and they're excited about and they're making their plans around, and then the floor just drops out from under them because the builder decides that they can make more money if they sell it to someone else. Hasn't happened as much in the last couple years, but it's the kind of thing that sticks with you and that you remember that that's a possibility. That's what some builders are capable of. Not all builders though. So make sure to, before you make a home purchase, check out the reviews, see what previous buyers are saying about those builders, or work with a professional, an expert in new construction who can help guide you in terms of which builders are more reputable, who's the best builders to work with, who's going to give you a better experience. Couple more things to mention on this topic of checking out your contract, and that is, are there any additional deposits after that initial earnest deposit? Is there going to be an additional deposit on any design upgrades that you add on? Some builders, it might be 100% deposit, a 50% deposit. And that's usually what I see, is somewhere around a 50% deposit on any of those design add-ons. So that's something you need to know before going under contract, is how much money are you going to have to come out of pocket up front. And usually all of these deposits are credited back at closing. So that's the good thing, but they are deposits that you lose if you decide to walk away. So it's important to know up front how much money you're going to have to be putting down and not let that be a surprise after the design appointment. And make sure you also check out and see when the cutoffs are for making changes. If you're buying an inventory home, there may be no changes. You're not able to make any alterations to the selections that have already been made. That's pretty common. But if you're building from scratch and you're able to pick out all of your own selections, usually there's a point where the builder says, hey, this is locked in, this is finalized, we're not changing anything unless something goes on back order, is just not available anymore, and you have to make a reselection. Some builders let you make changes up to a certain point with a change order fee. So maybe you've already finalized your selections, but you're like, you know what, I can't stand it. We need to change our flooring. I don't like the flooring that we picked. There's another one I like better. They may say, okay, you can do that, but you're going to have to pay us another $300 non-refundable fee for making that change. Just stuff that's good to know ahead of time. So make sure that you're reviewing the contract and asking those questions before you sign. The last thing we're going to talk about is the model homes. And that is that the models are almost always built with a ton of extra bells and whistles, a lot of which may not even be available for you to select as a buyer. We're talking accent lighting, accent walls like the one behind me that I did DIY. So make sure that you are also walking an inventory home, something that doesn't have all of the beautiful furniture and decor that you may actually be getting distracted by. Maybe you're so distracted by how pretty the furniture is that you're not really looking for the details of what's gonna come with your home. It's also a good idea to ask the builder rep what the average buyer is adding in terms of upgrades. Now, this doesn't apply to the spec-only builders that don't allow you to pick out all your own selections. This is going to be for if you're going to a design center, or even if you're just picking out from design packages there in the model. You want to find out what's the average that people like me are spending. The builder rep likely isn't going to be able to give you an exact number prior to going under contract. It usually takes at least a couple of hours to pick out all of your design selections, to get pricing back. That's not usually something that they're going to want to do with somebody who hasn't already committed to purchasing that home. But they should be able to give you a good ballpark. And a good salesperson will have asked you questions, they'll have gotten to know you, they'll be able to tell, are you somebody that has champagne taste? Are you somebody that isn't super fancy or picky and you're fine with the basics, you're not going to spend a whole lot on upgrades because you think it's a waste of money? They'll be able to kind of figure out where on the spectrum you fall, and they should be able to give you a range of where you can expect to be for your final purchase price. Because the last thing you want is to sign your contract and let's say your home is $400,000. Cool. Maybe you think, yeah, after I go to design, I might end up $410,000, $415,000, but then you go to the design center and it turns out that everything that you like, that you want, is going to cost you an additional $40,000. And now instead of $400,000 or $415,000, you're at $440,000. So these are just things that are good to ask ahead of time and get a good idea, get a better idea of where you might end up at the end of the day when you've added all of the things that you want to add. Now that you know what home builders may not tell you, you can see how easily things can get overlooked. That's where having a realtor can make all the difference. With the right expertise and guidance, you can navigate these hidden pitfalls and ensure that your new home is everything that you dreamed it would be, without the unexpected headaches. Don't go it alone. Make sure that you have somebody there who is looking out for your best interests. And on that note, if you are looking to purchase a new construction home here in the Dallas area, I would love to be the one to help you out with that. Let's have a conversation about your home buying goals, even if it's just to figure out the first steps. There is a Calendly link in the description below for you to claim your free 30-minute Zoom consultation. I'd love to be in your corner, but I can't help if you don't reach out. And if you want to know more about the process of finding and purchasing a new construction home, check out this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.